meantime, we are live now. Ooh, that was good.
Ew, was that your elbow?
Elbows.
Ew.
Oh, yeah. I'm Greg Tepper. That's Greg Powers. And this is This Week
in Cruton.
It's This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowerScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter, Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. And, of course, this is brought to you by our good chicken friends at Chicken Express. Chicken Express Chicken Fingers.
Tenders.
Tenders.
Darn it. You messed that up so bad.
What is there a difference between a finger and a tender? Or is that just like
no, it's just what they call
them
it.
tendies?
Yeah.
The Express Tender Pack.
The Express Tender Pack. You're right. No, you're 100% right. And they are tender. I mean, it's descriptive.
Can you take down 7 of them, or do you go with the 4? Can you do the 7?
I'm a wuss. I can only handle the 4. I ordered the 7 once. Like, there was one time where I was like feeling...
You got ambitious.
I did. I was feeling like really like, man, I'm hungry. I'm going to put these bad boys away. I can't do it. But what I do, as has been noted on this show, I do the 4-piece, the four tendies. But then I also got to have a side, like an extra side.
That's what I love to do, too. At least an extra roll. If not an extra side, I got to have an extra roll.
something a little bonus on the side.
I passed your Chicken Express in Hillsboro the other day, and I thought of you. On my way down to Austin.
You got to dip into that one. That one is like one of the
I just thought about
one of the
time.
best ran Chicken Expresses in the
and he's been
in the state.
He's
and I've
been
been
to all.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of them.
It's This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers of Next Level Athlete. A lot to get to on the recruiting world. We'll start with our prospect on the rise. Our prospect on the rise, let's go to Atascocita, to a guy who put on a show on the big stage. It was Humboldt-Atascocita 2022 wide receiver Chase Sowell, who went nuts against Allen. 7 catches, 182 yards, and 4 touchdowns in their big streak-breaking victory over the Allen Eagles. He's a baseball player as well, but he picked up offers this week. If you beat Allen and you put up those kinds of numbers, you get noticed, as evidenced by the offers from Northern Iowa. And you want to talk about people who are usually on the ground floor, guys like this. UTSA offered him. That feels like a pretty savvy offer there for Humboldt-Atascocita wide receiver Chase Sowell.
They wasted little time, and those 2 schools joined Howard Payne as his first 3 offers. And this is a guy who is definitely on the rise and kind of caught everybody's attention. With the huge game, helping. I guess it technically wasn't. Was it an up? It technically wasn't an upset.
Technically, according to the computer, it was not.
Okay, technically wasn't an upset, but it was a big win for Humboldt-Atascocita to go in up to Allen and pull it off 41-20, 182 yards and 4 touchdowns against what is considered to be one of the top defenses in the state. And I think that things are just now starting to take off for Sowell, who's going to continue to ramp up interest because he's going to have big games like this, I think, week after week. They've got a loaded team. And
oh, yeah.
I'm still debating on my week 4 destination, but that Atascocita Denton-Geyer game is looking mighty tasty.
Yeah, it really is. But they came away with, we've talked about it. It's the scalp. It's the scalp that everybody wanted. And Sowell was a big reason why. He was the number 1 target for Gavin Session, going nuts against, an Allen team that hasn't lost at home ever. And I think that is, to me, he's a guy who might get lost in the mix there at Atascocita because they do have so many playmakers. Cam Dewberry, obviously, everyone's crazy about their offensive tackle, right? Gavin Session, I think, is a playmaker. I like him a lot. Keith Wheeler, their wide receiver.
Yeah, Nate Kibble, another young offensive lineman who's a stud.
Yeah, and so it's easy to overlook a guy like Chase Sowell. So he needed, this is the kind of breakout game where I feel like, especially when Jeff Traylor's sitting up and paying attention, it's like, all right, you do this, and you're gonna get noticed by some schools like across country, obviously.
And his touchdown catch right before halftime, I think, was like one of the defining plays of that game. So it was a big momentum turner, and they rode that wave into the second half.
What year is he?
2022.
2022. So he's a senior, so he's only gonna heat up from here. Let's go on to what was next? Our commit of the week. Our commit of the week. Believe it or not, there were no FBS commitments in the state of Texas this week.
Crazy, I know.
Wild. I guess everybody's kind of keeping their powder dry. But this does give an opportunity that back in August, we had a big flood of commitments.
Yep.
And we couldn't spotlight them all because this is a brief segment. But let's talk about a 3-star prospect from Everman. Offensive guard Seth Martin, who committed to TCU back in early August. TCU, he picked them over offers from like North Texas, Texas State, UNLV, among some other schools. But here's a guy on the interior line, a 3-star guy that I know you like his upside to step in and play potentially early there in Horned Frog Land.
Well, he picked the Horned Frogs over offers from North Texas, Texas State, Dartmouth, Furman, and UNLV. So he didn't have like one of these massive offer lists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and one thing that I respect about TCU always is their ability to evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
And when they take a guy that no one else is on, you have to hit the pause button and say, what are they seeing that, one, I may have missed, and two, what the other schools have missed in this guy. And to do a little bit more of a deep dive on Seth, as you mentioned earlier in August, we had a flood of commitments. We really couldn't dive into this one. And then continuing to watch his development on tape as a senior is a massive interior offensive line prospect. He's broad-shouldered. He's really tough to get around. You're not going to move him because he plays with good balance. He's strong at the point of attack, and he's just solid all around. But the thing that I kind of really like about his game is when he flips over to play on the defensive side of the football, he exhibits quick feet and athleticism to make plays behind the line of scrimmage. And I think that translates well to the college level in the Big 12, where he's going to have to move around a little bit, in a pass-heavy league. So I think he's a guy who has an extreme upside, and I wouldn't be surprised. I would say he's a guard now, but he could be the type that could also work out at center, and he's smart. Mm-hmm. So he kind of checks some of those boxes. If you see Seth Martin as a 3-year Big 12 starter and think, where did this guy come from? We're trying to kind of tell you about him now. He does have some of those intangibles to be that guy, and I kind of like him as a center.
The other thing about, let's be honest about this. When we talk about which programs in the state of Texas at the FBS level have been the best at putting kids into the league, right? Offensive line-wise. A&M obviously has been excellent. Texas, to a certain extent, has been pretty good. TCU's been pretty good too. TCU's got a fair number of offensive linemen. Halapoulivaati Vaitai springs to mind. A few other guys that have made that leap to the next level. And so, this is one of those things that I think, especially on the offensive line, in a lot of ways, TCU, because of their move to the Big 12 and because of that, they have gone away. They have not had to go to the diamonds in the rough. We have to find these kids that nobody's talking about. But they still do that on the offensive line.
And in their own backyard.
And it's worked out for them.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a program out there that could probably say, I told you so, more than Gary Patterson's staff.
Yes.
Because they find these guys, but what they do a great job of is developing them. Mm-hmm. And that's what that you're going to get if you are a prospect who is looking at TCU. If they have faith enough in you to see you in person, extend you an offer through their camps or after they've done an in-person evaluation, they have faith that they're going to be able to develop you not only to be a frontline starter at a high level, but potentially also one day be a draft pick.
Most certainly. Certainly keep an eye on him, Seth Martin, the Everman offensive guard committed to TCU. We're talking This Week in Recruiting with Greg Powers, the next level athlete here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TFToday. Oh, boy. Let's talk about our underclassmen of the week. Our underclassmen of the week is Timpson athlete Terry Bussey. We've been singing his praises all week because of what he did in their huge win over Wascom. 201 yards, 3 touchdowns passing, 96 yards, 3 touchdowns rushing, 7 tackles, and an interception. They got him playing quarterback right now. He's a class of 2024 kid, so he is only a sophomore this year. I mean, he was a kid who burst onto the scene as a freshman and made an impact. He's already got some offers from UTSA, SFA. That is not the end of this kid. I think he is a superstar, and I'm very glad to see us highlighting him on the Underclassmen of the Week.
Well, he's also named as one of the most significant Texas high school football prospects preseason in 2A. So this is a guy who I'm also very high on. 6 foot, 170 pounds, plays multiple positions. He was the district offensive MVP last year after playing. I think he played quarterback, wide receiver, running back, flipped over, and I think had 50-something tackles on the defensive side of the ball. He's like a Mr. Do-It-All. But the ceiling is very high. I would not be surprised by just the end of this season that his offer list, let's just say, has increased by 300%. You know what I mean? He's got 2 offers now. He's a guy that's probably going to have, 8 to 10 offers by the end of the year, and he's going to be a national level recruit likely by the time it's all said and done. And if you're a Timpson high school football fan and you're not at the game on Friday night, what you doing?
I mean, he's just a star. Like, he's a star, and he's one of those guys. I mean, I don't want to start going crazy with like comparisons and stuff like that, but he reminds you of those game breakers at the 2A level who it's immediately identifiable. It's like, oh, you're the best player on the field.
Right.
Like, I feel the same way watching his film that I felt watching Rashad Paul. Like I felt watching D. Paul at Monday.
Right.
I felt Reginald Davis at Tenaha. James Washington at Stanford. I'm certainly not comparing him to them. I'm saying the feeling that I get is the same.
Go ahead and do it.
Go
ahead and do it.
What I'm saying is that I get that same feeling of like, I watch it and I'm like, you don't have to tell me what number he wears.
Right.
Like, I know he's the best player on the field.
And he's got 3 more years left, counting the rest of this year, and he wasted a little time bursting onto the scene as a freshman. And to be quite honest, the Wascom score caught me by surprise. I know Timpson's pretty good, but Wascom is just one of those teams that I always think is going to win every game they play. Like I think they're going to win almost every game they play in. And this is just going to be exciting times. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the type of player who can single-handedly help lead his team to a state championship with one of these next 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And people are going to want to be around him and go watch him play, and he's going to be a whole lot of fun for us to cover.
He's a star. He's a star, most certainly. Let's round it all out with our Recruit of the Week. Our Recruit of the Week is Arlington Bowie 2022 offensive guard Devin Campbell. A lot of love for the interior lineman today.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
We spread it around the state, too.
He has named the top
love.
5. He's got his 5 down to Texas, Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, and USC. He's a Dave Campbell's Texas football super teamer. He's already taken official visits to Oklahoma and USC. We have him rated the number 8 prospect in the DCTF Hot 100 at texasfootball.com/recruiting, and a guy who is going to make one of these programs very happy. Not a surprise to see 5 heavy hitters in his top 5.
Yeah, no doubt. He had 31 official scholarship offers, narrowed it down to his top 5. He's already, as you mentioned, taken a couple of the out-of-state official visits. I think that official visit to Texas is going to be like key. Texas is one of those schools who I'm predicting that he will end up committing to Texas. This one isn't over. He has a lot of schools chasing after him, of course. But I think Texas sits in a really good spot for him. And as a matter of fact, when we spoke with 247 Sports recruiting analyst Mike Roach a couple weeks back in regards to Devin Campbell, he was still sticking by his prediction for him to end up in a Longhorns jersey as well. So just interesting to see where this one goes, and this is like for Steve Sarkisian and his staff at Texas, this is like one they have to hang their hat on. They've been after him for a long time. Even before he got the job there, he's been identified as one of the top players in the state, one of the top targets for UT. And now it feels like they're out in front. So if he doesn't go there, then it's going to be a setback or a loss, or at least viewed that way by the fans. So if you're an in-state recruiting fan, especially a UT recruiting fan, this is a very important recruitment, and Texas does make the cut there.
Yeah, this is a guy who, you got to keep him in state, especially look, let's be honest about this. A&M's not on this list. And so if you are the only Texas team on his final 5, you gotta close this. You gotta close it. You gotta get this guy. This feels like this. I don't want to say it's a class maker or a class breaker, because obviously Steve Sarkisian's doing good things on the recruiting trail, regardless of whether or not they land Devin Campbell. But if you're talking about sending a message and saying, hey, we're going to start sealing the borders here, and we're going to start getting these guys to stay in the state of Texas, then I think this is an important one. That this is important for, I don't want to say emotionally, because it's not, but it feels like a momentum type recruitment here.
Well, I feel like Texas in-state has to do well in Arlington ISD. They have to do well at Cedar Hill. They have to do well in Oak Cliff. They have to do well in South Dallas, DeSoto, Lancaster. There is a lot of talent that comes from these places that play some of the best football in the state, and UT needs to be able to have success recruiting those areas, and they're out in front right now for Campbell. They can't lose him. That's just one that I will see. Like if he goes somewhere else, when we're writing about early signing period, we'll be like, the one who got away, it would be him.
The guy who never gets away.
I feel like I tee it up every time.
Is Greg Powers, the Next Level Athlete. Follow him on Twitter at GPowersScout. Follow Next Level Athlete on Twitter, Next Level D1. See his fine work at TexasFootball.com/recruiting. Stick around because I'm going to have you introduce your interview coming up here in a moment. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.